The wind was cold and the sky was black with smoke. Relia sat in the corner of the broken house, her arms wrapped tightly around her 2 children. She had not eaten in 2 days, but her kids were weaker, smaller, and tired. They hadn't smiled in weeks, not since their father was taken. The world had ended, and no one came to help them. The stars above were silent. The humans had left the galaxy, or maybe they had all died in the Great War. That's what the elders told them. Humans were gone, just stories now. But Relia still remembered the stories her husband used to tell. About the strange Earth people who came from the blue world, strange, loud, brave, and sometimes kind. Her youngest daughter, Mira, pulled on her sleeve. "Mama," she whispered. "I heard someone cry." Relia looked around. The night was quiet. Only the sound of the wind and falling ash. "There is no one, Mira," she whispered, brushing her hair. But the little girl shook her head. "No." It wasn't a voice. It was like, "A sad light, a sad light?" Relia narrowed her eyes. She stood and looked outside through the cracks of the wall. The city was dead, buildings broken, towers collapsed, but far off, near the edge of the ruined transport hub, a soft blinking light flickered in the dark. A weak blue signal. On and off, slow and quiet, her heart jumped. That was no normal light. It looked like a beacon, and not just any beacon, a human signal. No, she told herself, it couldn't be. Humans were gone from this part of the galaxy. They had abandoned their outposts when the war started. But something inside her pulled at her feet. A whisper in her mind. Go look, her children needed food, heat, safety. If this signal was real, it could change everything. She told her children to stay inside and wait. She wrapped a torn scarf around her face and stepped out into the dark. The ground crunched beneath her feet. Ash and broken glass covered the road. Her heart pounded as she walked. Every shadow looked like danger. Every sound made her flinch, closer and closer. The light blinked from behind a collapsed shuttle. It was a human distress beacon. Old, cracked, but still alive. She reached for it, hands shaking. Suddenly, a low groan echoed from beneath the rubble. Her eyes widened. She froze. Another sound, closer now, a cough, weak and painful. Someone, was alive down there. She dropped to her knees and began pulling pieces of metal. She should have run. She knew the stories. Humans were killers, monsters, destroyers. But her hands kept moving. She pulled back a broken panel and gasped. There, beneath the wreckage, was a man, a human man, blood on his face. His body crushed under steel, his armor was burned, chest rising and falling slowly. A symbol glowed faintly on his chest, Earth's old emblem. He opened his eyes for just a second, soft blue eyes filled with pain and something else, not fear, not hate, he whispered, "Please, is someone there?" Then his eyes closed again. Relia stood frozen. She had found the impossible, a living human. The kind her people said were all gone, and now her children waited alone in the cold. And this man, this stranger, might be the answer. She looked back once toward her home, then down at him. The wind howled louder now, as if warning her. But she didn't move away. Instead, she bent down and whispered, "I don't know who you are, but if you hurt my children, I will end you." She grabbed his arms and began to pull. The beacon still blinked, but now it seemed to blink faster, as if it knew. Help had come. The night was heavy with dust and silence, only broken by Relia's uneven breathing as she dragged the man through the ruins. His armor was heavier than she thought, scorched black from the crash. Metal plates cracked open like broken skin. Every pull tore her hands, but she didn't stop. The human's face was pale under the dirt, lips trembling from the cold. Behind them, the city was nothing but a graveyard of steel and ash. No one sane walked these streets anymore, not after dark. By the time she reached her shelter, a broken storage room hidden under a collapsed market, her arms were shaking. Her children rushed to the door, eyes wide. "Mama, what is that?" Her son Lero whispered, holding a dim lantern. Relia set the man down gently, her chest rising fast. "He's hurt." "Badly." Mira stared, small hands clinging to her mother's leg. "Is he human?" The word felt strange in the air. Even saying it made Relia's heart pound. Humans were supposed to be myths now. Villains in the stories used to scare children into silence. But this one, he was real and dying. She pulled away pieces of armor, revealing deep burns along his side. He had been shot and one of his ribs was crushed. He needed treatment, food, warmth, things she didn't have. Still, she tore part of her cloak, pressed it against his wound, and whispered, Don't die here, stranger. The beacon outside went dark. Only the low crackling of a small fire lit the room. Lero stared at the man's strange features. Short hair, scarred hands. He doesn't look scary, the boy said quietly. Relia didn't answer, but inside she thought the same. There was something almost peaceful about his face. Even in pain, hours passed. The human's breathing grew shallow. Then suddenly he moved, a weak groan escaping his lips. His eyes opened again, blue, sharp, searching the room. Relia froze as his gaze met hers. He tried to speak, but only a rough sound came out. She leaned close, cautious. You're safe here, but you must be quiet. He blinked, struggling to understand. Then his voice, soft but clear, said one strange thing. Where are your children? They're cold. Relia's heart stopped for a moment. He could barely breathe, yet he noticed them first. Lero and Mira hid behind a crate, frightened but curious. The man gave a faint smile. Don't be afraid. I don't hurt kids. His words sounded honest, his tone gentle. It wasn't the voice of a monster. She asked his name, but he only whispered. Eli. As before his eyes closed again, Elias, she repeated silently. She watched him all night, tending the wound, feeding him the last of their water each time he stirred. He muttered strange words about orders, about failure, about saving lives. She didn't understand most of it, but one thing was clear. He wasn't just some lost soldier. Morning came weekly. Light filtered through cracks in the roof. Outside, voices echoed faintly. Patrols. The local guards were scavengers now. Cruel and desperate. They would kill for anything useful. And if they saw a human, they'd burn him alive. Relia hid Elias under the floorboards, covered him with metal scraps. Her heart pounded as footsteps neared. Anyone here? A rough voice shouted. She stood at the entrance, her face calm but cold. Only ruins and ghosts, she said. The guards laughed, kicking debris. You'd better not be hiding anything. Widow. They searched, throwing things aside, one of them even stepping close to the hidden hatch. Lero's breath hitched, Mira whimpered. The guard turned his head sharply, then paused. A sound outside, a falling wall maybe. Let's go, the leader muttered. Nothing here worth taking. When the noise faded, Relia collapsed to her knees, trembling. She lifted the floorboard again. Elias still lay there. Breathing quietly, he opened one eye and whispered, You saved me. Her voice was low, almost angry. You're not safe yet. If they find you, they'll kill us all, he smiled weakly. Then I'll try not to get found. For a strange second, Relia almost smiled back. The man had courage, stupid, human courage. And maybe in this dead world, that was something worth keeping. That night, as the fire burned low, Elias sat up, wincing from pain. He looked at the children sleeping beside the wall. You shouldn't risk yourself for me, he said softly. Relia looked away. I didn't do it for you. He chuckled. A faint, tired sound, then for them, that's enough. For the first time in years, she didn't feel entirely alone outside. Smoke drifted across the ruins, but deep beneath that broken world, in the heart of one forgotten shelter, a spark of warmth had been lit again, and though neither of them knew it yet, that single act, the alien woman saving the dying human, would soon shake the entire galaxy. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of burnt metal and smoke. Relia sat by the small fire, staring at the flickering light, her mind lost between fear and confusion. A human was sleeping just a few feet away, breathing slow, his face half lit by the flames. Elias, that was the name he had whispered. A name from a race that was supposed to be long gone, erased by war and hatred. And now he was under her roof, eating her food, breathing the same air as her children. Lero and Mira sat near the corner, whispering to each other in low voices. He doesn't look like the monsters they talked about, Lero said, his small eyes filled with curiosity. Mira hugged her knees. Maybe he's different, she said, her voice trembling. Relia sighed. No one is different when it comes to survival. But the truth was, her own heart didn't fully believe that. Later, when the children fell asleep, Relia checked Elias's wound. His armor had been melted in several places, his side covered with scars and fresh burns. She pressed a cloth soaked in warm water against his ribs, and he flinched but didn't move. When his eyes opened, they were steady, calm. And watching her face, "Thank you," he whispered, "for not leaving me." Her hand froze midair. "You should rest," she said, avoiding his eyes. He gave a faint smile. "Rest is for people who have a home. The words hit her deeper than she expected. She stood quickly, turning away. Don't speak nonsense. Humans had homes once. Entire cities, he chuckled softly. And lost them. Just like you. Her head snapped back toward him, but he closed his eyes again. Sleep or pain? She wasn't sure which one claimed him first. The next morning, she woke to the smell of smoke, stronger than her small fire. Her heart jumped. She grabbed her old rifle and ran to the entrance. Outside, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Far in the distance, black smoke curled up from another part of the ruins. It wasn't from lightning or random fire. This was controlled. The guards were burning through the lower sectors again, searching for food, scavengers, and fugitives. If they came this way, Elias wouldn't survive. She turned back into the room. Get up, she said sharply. We have to move, Elias groaned, still weak. Move? I can barely stand. You'll have to, she said, helping him up, her arm under his. If they find a human here, they'll kill you, and my children. He leaned against her shoulder, breathing hard. You could leave me. You'd be safe. She looked at him, eyes burning. If I was the kind of person who left people to die, I'd already be dead myself. They moved deeper into the underground tunnels. Lero carried their lantern while Mira clutched her mother's cloak. The tunnel was dark, cold, filled with echoes of dripping water. At one point, Elias stumbled. Almost collapsing, Lero quickly ran to help him. Here, hold on, sir, the boy said. Elias smiled weakly. You're strong. Kid, Lero grinned. Mama says strength is for helping, not hurting. Elias's smile faded a little. Your mother's wise. When they reached an old maintenance chamber, they stopped to rest. Elias sank to the ground, exhausted. He pulled a small metal cube from his pocket, something Relia hadn't noticed before. What's that? She asked suspiciously. He looked at it for a moment, then said quietly, It's a human memory core. From my ship, she frowned. Why keep it? Because it remembers the ones I couldn't save, he said softly, his thumb brushing over the metal. If I forget them, then they really die. His words were heavy with sorrow. Relia didn't know what to say, so she just sat beside the fire again, silent. The orange glow danced on their faces. The warmth felt like something rare, almost forbidden in a world that had forgotten kindness. Hours passed, and for a moment it almost felt peaceful. Elias told the children small stories, human stories about oceans, blue skies and birds that sang before dawn. Mira's eyes lit up. Did the birds really fly in the sky? Elias nodded, smiling. Yes, they flew for no reason other than to be free. Relia watched quietly, her heart tight. She had never seen her children smile like that since the war. But the peace didn't last suddenly. A distant shout echoed through the tunnels, voices, angry. Many of them. The guards had followed their trail. Elias grabbed his blaster, still weak but determined. Relia's instinct screamed to protect her children, she whispered. Hide, both of you. Behind the crates, don't make a sound. Mira's eyes filled with tears. Mama. Do as I say, Relia hissed, her hands shaking. The voices grew louder, closer. Elias leaned against the wall, trying to aim. Relia took her old rifle, her heart pounding like thunder. For the first time in years, she wasn't just a mother trying to survive. She was a soldier again. The footsteps stopped just beyond the tunnel bend. A flashlight beam swept across the dark stone. Then a voice sneered. We saw your firelight, traitor. Come out. Relia met Elias's eyes for a brief second. No words were needed, they both knew. If they were caught, they were dead, she whispered. Stay low. Then she turned toward the entrance, her finger tight on the trigger. The guards stepped into view, their weapons raised, and the firelight flickered one last time before everything exploded into motion. The echo of gunfire still rang in Relia's ears. Smoke drifted through the tunnels, carrying the sharp scent of burnt metal and dust. She leaned against the wall, panting, her rifle trembling in her hands. Beside her, Elias struggled to stay upright, blood seeping through the cracks in his armor. The guards had been driven back, but they would return soon and stronger. Lero crawled out from behind a crate, tears streaking down his face. Mama, are they gone? Relia nodded weakly. For now. Elias sat down heavily, exhaling. You saved me again. She looked at him, eyes filled with confusion and anger. No, human. You saved yourself and nearly got us killed. He didn't argue, just gave a faint broken smile. That's what humans do. We ruin everything and still try to fix it, he said quietly. Relia turned away, trying to calm her shaking hands. The firelight flickered over his armor, and she saw strange markings on the side, symbols that weren't military. "What are these?" she asked, pointing. Elias looked down, then hesitated. "They're not rank symbols," he said slowly. "They're a project mark. I wasn't just a soldier. I was an engineer, part of the reconstruction division." Relia frowned. "Reconstruction?" He nodded. "We were sent here years ago to rebuild the colony after the war. To restart the planet's core." Her heart jumped. "The core? That's a myth." "The elders said it's dead. Burned out." Elias looked up, his blue eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "No, it's not dead. It's sleeping. Your leaders wanted it that way." Relia froze. "What are you saying?" He leaned forward, wincing in pain. "This world has an energy core under the surface, built by humans when the colony was shared between our species. It was meant to give light, warmth, food, water, life. But after the war, your council sealed it. They didn't want humans to have power again, so they shut it down, condemning everyone here to starve." Relia's breath caught in her throat. It couldn't be true. It shouldn't be true. Her husband had died fighting raiders for scraps of food. Her children had grown up under the shadow of death. All this time, life was buried right beneath their feet, hidden by the very people who ruled them. "You're lying," she whispered. Elias shook his head slowly. "I wish I was." He took out the small cube she had seen before, the memory core, and held it up. "This has the coordinates, the access codes, everything. If we can reach the reactor, we can turn it back on." Relia stared at the faint glow of the cube, her heart torn between belief and fear. "Even if what you say is true," she said softly, "how do we reach it? The lower tunnels are sealed, guarded by the council's men." Elias looked at her, his face grim. "Then we'll find another way. I didn't come here to die in the dark." She wanted to shout at him, to tell him it was impossible. But when she looked at her sleeping children, their faces thin and tired, something inside her cracked. If this human was right, if there was even a small chance to bring back light, then she had to try. Even if it meant betraying everything her people believed in. That night, while the children slept, she sat across from Elias by the dying fire. Her voice was quiet. "My husband, he fought for the council once. He believed their lies. He said humans destroyed our world. He died believing that." Elias stared into the flames. "Maybe humans did destroy it, but they also built it once. We're good at breaking things, but sometimes we're better at fixing them." Relia looked at him for a long time. His face was tired, scarred, but his eyes, those strange human eyes, held something she hadn't seen in years. Hope. And that frightened her more than any weapon. By morning, they began their journey. They moved through forgotten tunnels, places even the raiders avoided. Old signs written in both alien script and human letters lined the walls. The deeper they went, the warmer the air grew. Elias limped beside her, holding the cube close, its light guiding them. Lero asked, "Mama, are we going to find the sun?" Relia smiled faintly. "Something like that." "My heart." Mira held her brother's hand tightly, whispering, "I'm scared." Elias glanced back at them. "Good," he said softly. "Courage is being scared and still walking forward." Hours later, they reached a massive door sealed with ancient metal. Elias brushed away the dust, revealing a faint human insignia. "This is it," he said, voice trembling. "The entrance to the main reactor vault." He pressed the cube into a small slot beside the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground rumbled, and old lights flickered to life. A low hum filled the tunnel, deep and alive, like the planet's heartbeat returning after years of silence. Relia stared in awe as the door slowly opened. Warm light spilled out, painting their faces gold. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Elias smiled weakly. "That's humanity for you. We destroy, and then we create something worth saving." But even as she stepped closer, a shadow moved behind them. From the far end of the tunnel came the sound of boots, many boots, echoing off the stone. The guards had found them. Elias turned, face tightening. Relia grabbed her rifle, whispering, "You said you wanted to turn it back on?" He nodded. "Then we'd better do it before they stop us." The hum of the reactor grew louder, and as the first shots rang out behind them, the light of the old world began to wake once more. The ground shook beneath their feet as alarms blared through the tunnels. Relia grabbed her children and pushed them behind a metal wall, while Elias limped toward the control console. His fingers moved quickly across the old system screen, blue lights flashing under his touch. "They found us," Relia hissed, her voice sharp with panic. Elias didn't look up. "Then we're out of time. I need just a few more seconds." Sparks rained from the ceiling as distant explosions echoed through the reactor hall. The old power conduits were coming alive, glowing like veins of light under the ground. The hum of the reactor deepened, a low heartbeat of power that grew louder with every second. Relia peeked out and saw shadows moving in the corridor. Armed guards, dozens of them, their torches cut through the smoke, their shouts bouncing off the steel walls. "By the Council's order, seize the human and his traitor," one voice thundered. Relia's pulse raced. She turned to Elias. "They'll kill us all. Stop this, we can still escape." He shook his head, sweat running down his face. "No! If we don't finish this, your world dies with us, Relia." The heat from the reactor filled the air, making it hard to breathe. The old machine pulsed brighter, trembling like it was waking from a long nightmare. The first guard burst into the chamber, weapon raised. Relia spun and fired before he could shout, the shot echoing like thunder. The blast hit the guard's chest, sending him crashing into the wall. Elias turned at the sound, eyes wide. "You're a good shot," she glared. "Don't thank me, just finish what you started." More guards poured in, their armor glowing red from the heat. Relia ducked behind a support beam. Firing again, the flash lit her face, fierce and determined. Lero and Mira cried softly behind the wall, clutching each other, every scream. Every blast made Relia's hands shake, but she didn't stop, not this time. Not when her children's future depended on it. Elias slammed his hand down on the control pad. A deep mechanical sound filled the hall. "Come on," he whispered. "Come back to life." The reactor roared, its ancient circuits lighting up like a sunrise beneath the earth. Blue energy surged across the floor, spreading into the city above for the first time in years. The sky above the ruins began to glow faintly. The guards stopped firing, staring in disbelief as the light spread around them. "It's the old power," one of them whispered. Fear in his voice, Relia didn't waste the moment. She grabbed Elias's arm and shouted, "Move!" He nodded, still limping. "The system's active, it's running on a failsafe." "We did it!" But before they could celebrate, a deafening blast shook the room. The ceiling cracked open, flames spilling through the vents. The guards fired again, desperate and blind. Relia threw herself over her children as a piece of burning debris crashed beside them. Elias crawled forward, his armor scorched. "Relia!" he yelled, coughing. "We have to shut the vents or the core will overload." She looked up, eyes wild with fear. "How?" He pointed to a control tower above them. She nodded without hesitation. "Stay with them," she told Elias. Before he could protest, she sprinted through the smoke, climbing the metal stairs two at a time. Bullets sparked off the railings around her. She ducked, rolled, kept moving. At the top, she reached the manual override, an ancient lever fused with rust. She grabbed it with both hands and pulled. It didn't move. She gritted her teeth, screaming as she used all her strength. Finally, with a loud crack, it turned, the vents sealed, the roar of fire fading beneath the rising hum of the reactor. Down below, Elias watched her through the haze, his heart pounding. For a moment, all he saw was her silhouette against the golden light, an alien mother who refused to die quietly. He whispered, "You're braver than any soldier I've ever known." The last of the guards fled, terrified by the blinding glow that filled the tunnels. The light was too strong, too pure, it felt holy. Elias fell to his knees, gasping for air. Relia stumbled down the steps, burns on her arms, dirt across her face. The children ran to her, crying, "Mama!" She held them close, her voice trembling. "It's over. We did it," Elias smiled faintly. "Not over. Just beginning." Outside, above the cracked planet's surface, the city lights flickered back to life for the first time in years. The machines awakened. Green fields began to shimmer under the energy grid. The world was breathing again, but their moment of peace didn't last long. A voice echoed from a loudspeaker above the tunnel. "Golden Cruel, this is the Council. Stand down. You have committed high treason." Relia's face hardened. Elias looked at her, eyes narrowing. "They'll come for us." She nodded. "Then we'll be ready." The fire had burned away the fear. The light of the reactor glowed behind them, warm and alive. And as the night sky filled with a new dawn, Relia whispered to her children, "Never again will we live in darkness." The human beside her stood tall despite his wounds. Together, they looked toward the distant city, the Council's towers still dark against the light of the reborn world. Their fight wasn't over yet, but for the first time, hope had returned to a dying planet. The new dawn was short-lived by the next night. The sky was already black again, this time from the smoke of Council warships. Relia stood at the edge of the ruins, her children beside her. Watching the sky burn with red lights, the power was back, but it had brought the Council's wrath with it. Elias adjusted the straps on his broken armor, his voice low and tense. "They won't stop now, Relia. The Council won't allow this world to live free." Relia looked at him. "Then we take their power away." The reactor core had given life to the planet again, but something inside it was still unstable. Elias had seen it on the readings. The energy waves were uneven. "It's not just a power source," he explained, tracing symbols on the dusty screen. "It's connected to a control system buried even deeper in the old human vaults. If we don't stabilize it, the core could overload. Or worse, the Council could seize control of it remotely." Relia's heart sank. "So after all this, we might still lose it?" Elias nodded grimly. "Unless we go down there and shut down the override." She stared at the map, dark tunnels stretching under the planet's crust. It was a place even the oldest stories refused to mention. "The descent," she whispered. "The tunnels where the first colonists disappeared." Elias packed his tools, ignoring the fear in her voice. "No, then that's where we're going." He looked at her children. "They can't come with us." Lero immediately stepped forward. "We're not leaving you, Mama." Relia knelt, her hands on his shoulders. "You have to stay with old Brenna in the shelter. We'll come back." "I promise." Mira's voice shook. "You always promise." Relia kissed her forehead softly. "And I always keep it." As the night fell, she and Elias descended into the lower tunnels. The air was thick, damp, and filled with whispers, metal groaning, water dripping, echoes of something ancient and alive. The further they went, the warmer it became, the walls pulsing faintly with blue light like veins beneath the planet's skin. Elias's flashlight flickered. "Strange," he muttered. "These structures are still active. Human tech fused with alien design. It shouldn't even exist anymore." Relia brushed her fingers over the wall. "Maybe this world remembers both of us." Hours passed. Their path grew narrow, the air heavy with pressure. Every sound seemed louder, every step slower. Then, deep ahead, they saw it, a massive sealed door made of obsidian black alloy. At its center glowed a sigil, a symbol of the old alliance between human and alien split down the middle. Elias's hand shook as he touched it. This is the heart gate," he whispered, awe and sadness mixing in his voice. He connected his data cube, but the system refused to open. A voice, calm, metallic, and ancient, spoke from the console. "Authorization denied. Human access revoked." Elias clenched his jaw. "Of course. They erased our codes." Relia stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. "What if it needs both?" she said quietly. He looked at her, confused. She pressed her hand to the other side of the symbol, where the alien crest glowed faintly. The door trembled, light pulsing under her palm. Elias quickly reinserted the cube, and for a moment, human and alien lights merged into one. The heart gate groaned open. A wave of warm air swept over them. Inside, the chamber was vast, a cathedral of machinery. Glowing rivers of energy flowing through transparent tubes. At the center stood a massive core. Suspended in midair, it pulsed like a beating heart, but cracks of unstable energy split across its surface. Elias stared in horror. "It's worse than I thought. The Council isn't just trying to shut it down, they're draining it to power their ships." Relia's eyes widened. "They're stealing the planet's life?" He nodded. "If they finish, this world dies for good. No more air, no more water, nothing." She looked at him, her voice cold but steady. "Then we stop them here." They moved through the chamber, dodging arcs of lightning-like energy. Elias connected his tools to the main node, typing rapidly. His screen filled with warnings. "Access denied, system locked, Council override active." He slammed his fist down. "They've taken full control. I need direct access to the core." "That's suicide," Relia warned. He gave a tired grin. "It's only suicide if I fail." He climbed the narrow platform toward the glowing sphere. Sparks flying around him, Relia watched him go, fear rising in her throat. Every second felt endless, the hum of the reactor growing louder. Then suddenly his voice called out over the roar. "Relia, I can't unlock it without an alien biosignal. Your energy frequency." "Come here now." She hesitated only for a heartbeat before climbing up beside him. The air crackled with power, the light nearly blinding. "Put your hand here," Elias shouted. Pointing to a glowing panel, she pressed it, and the core reacted instantly, its light shifting from cold blue to deep gold. Elias's console flickered, unlock sequence complete. The core stabilized for a moment, then the sound of footsteps echoed from the upper tunnel. Dozens of armored soldiers poured into the chamber, weapons raised. At their head stood a tall figure in silver armor, High Chancellor Vern, the alien who had ruled through fear for decades. His voice was sharp and cruel. "Relia of the lower ruins, you betrayed your kind for a human parasite," Relia glared. "You betrayed us long before that." Elias drew his weapon, standing beside her despite his wounds. Vern's cold eyes narrowed. "You think one man and one weak mother can defy the council?" Elias smiled faintly. "No, but one truth can burn an empire." Before the Chancellor could respond, Elias hit the final command. The chamber filled with blinding light as the reactor's power surged through the planet. The walls shook, ancient circuits reigniting, and above, the cities of the world began to glow again. Every light, every home, every star, reborn. Vern screamed as the system overloaded his soldiers' weapons. Relia turned to Elias, shouting over the chaos, "What did you do?" He smiled weakly. "Gave your people back their son." The floor cracked, light spilling from the fissures as the core roared alive. Relia grabbed his arm. "We have to go." He nodded faintly, eyes heavy. "Go. I'll hold the system stable." Her voice broke. "Elias, no." He looked at her one last time, his smile soft and tired. "Tell them." Humanity kept its promise. She reached for him, but the light consumed everything. The last thing she saw was his face, framed in gold fire. As the world above finally began to breathe again, silence. That was the first thing Relia noticed when she opened her eyes. No alarms, no gunfire, no screams, only the faint hum of the reactor far below. Steady and alive, the descent had ended, but the memory of that blinding light still burned in her mind. She sat up slowly, coughing, her vision swimming. Her hands were covered in dust and dried blood, her heart pounding with one thought, Elias. The platform where he had stood was gone, melted by the final surge. Only fragments of his armor remained, fused into the metal like a ghost of sacrifice. For a long moment she couldn't move, couldn't speak. Then a small blue light blinked near her. His data cube, half buried under debris, still glowing. She picked it up with trembling fingers, whispering, "You stubborn human. You did it." Above her, the tunnel ceiling had cracked open. Light poured in, not the cold light of explosions, but sunlight, real sunlight. Relia climbed toward it, every step heavy but filled with purpose. When she emerged into the open air, she gasped. The dead city was alive again. Towers shimmered with energy. Plants sprouted from the ash. Rivers of golden light ran through the streets. For the first time in her life, she saw a blue sky. Her children found her first, running through the ruins, calling her name, Mama. Mama! She dropped to her knees, pulling them close, tears streaming down her face. Mira pressed her cheek against her mother's chest. "I thought you were gone." Relia smiled weakly. "Not yet, little star." Lero looked around, eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful. Did the human do this?" Relia nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes. He gave us back our world. But peace didn't last long. The council's towers still loomed over the city. And from them, ships rose, silver and black. Trying to reclaim control, the people, weak and starving for years, came out of hiding. Staring at the ships in fear, Relia stood tall, the data cube clutched in her hand. "He left us his weapon," she said quietly. "Not a gun, not a bomb. Truth." She gathered the survivors in the city's square, old, young, soldiers, workers, everyone who had lived in darkness too long. The cube projected Elias's final message, his voice echoing across the square. "This world belongs to both of you," it said. "Humans and aliens built it together, bled for it together, your leaders sealed its heart. And I, one human, opened it again. Don't waste this light. Protect it. Share it. Live." The crowd was silent at first. Then a ripple moved through them. Soft murmurs. Cries, cheers. The people fell to their knees, looking up at the sky as if seeing it for the first time. Some whispered prayers. Others shouted his name. Relia's chest ached, but for once it wasn't from fear. It was pride. The human they had once called a monster had become their savior. The council ship circled above. their loudspeakers demanding surrender. But something unexpected happened. The city's defense towers, long dead, came alive, their targeting lights glowing blue. Elias had reconnected them to the people's network. The council's commands were jammed, their systems hijacked. The citizens raised their own banners, defiant and united. Relia walked to the front line, rifle in hand. Her children stood behind her, safe among the crowd. The council's warships descended, their guns aimed, but before they could fire, Relia spoke through the comm link, her voice cold and strong. "This is Relia of the lower ruins. You called me weak, worthless without a man. But it was a human man who gave me strength, who gave this world back its light. If you want to take it again, you'll have to face the entire world he saved." The transmission carried across every channel, every sector, every colony. Her words struck deep. For the first time in generations, the council's power trembled. Some ships pulled back, their captains refusing orders, others descended, but were met not with fear but with resistance. The people fought with the fire of the newly reborn world. By nightfall, the council's rule was broken. When the last ship fell, Relia stood among the ruins once more. Exhausted, scarred, but alive, she looked up at the sky, where the clouds parted to reveal the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's remnants still drifted, unknown, scattered, forgotten. But she knew that when they returned, they would find this place shining, a living symbol of what one human heart could do. Years passed and the planet flourished again. The cities rebuilt, the rivers ran clear, and new generations grew up under twin banners, human and alien intertwined. At the heart of the capital stood a statue, carved from alloy and stone, a tall man in damaged armor, his hand resting gently on the head of a child. Beside him, an alien woman holding a torch of light. Below them, the words carved in both languages. He answered their cry. Every dawn, Relia would walk there with her children. She'd touch the base of the statue, feeling the warmth of the metal as the sunlight hit it. Mira would always ask, "Mama, do you think he can see us from the stars?" Relia would smile softly, her voice full of quiet strength. "Yes, my heart." And I think he's smiling back. That night, when the stars returned, she stood on the balcony. The wind was cool. Carrying the scent of life again, she whispered to the sky, "You said humanity ruins and fixes in equal measure. And you were right." She looked at the horizon, glowing with lights from 100 new cities. "This world is yours too, Elias. It always will be." And as the first morning light touched the planet's reborn surface, the legend of the human who answered the silent cry spread across the stars. A reminder that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, humanity's promise still burned bright, and one alien mother, once forgotten, now carried that fire within her heart forever.